How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the 20th episode of Critically Incorrect. Yes, yet again, Justin is not with us this week, but we did have the return of Daniel McCann, so if you wanted to say hi real quick.
Hello, everyone. I have taken Justin's place because he's just in limbo.
Yeah, Justin's just doing his own thing at the moment, and I'm sure we'll hear about him. You know, I keep saying next week. I'm not going to say that this week because honestly, who knows? But we're going to continue on like normal. So I guess, Dan, it's actually pretty exciting to have you on this week because you have a PS5. We joked about it last time you're on the podcast that you're still looking for one, but you actually do have one now. So, you know, we normally start these things off with like what we've been playing. So if you kind of want to talk about, you know, your PS5 experience so far, go ahead.
So I got the PS5 a couple of weeks ago, finally. Set me back about near enough 600 quid because literally the only way I could buy it on game was to buy one of them pathetically stupid bundles. Yeah. So I bit the bullet, got it 2 weeks ago. So far the only things I've really been playing is a Platinum Spider-Man Miles Morales, which I really loved. Played a little bit of FIFA 21, but only really because my mates have been playing Play Cubs. Played a bit of God of War as well. I'm looking like I might actually finish that, believe it or not. And then this weekend I'm probably going to be trying out Demon Souls because I got that with the bundle as well. So I want to check that one out because it's been ages since I played the original. So I mainly just want to play it to see how awful I am because I remember my first experience of playing it was pretty bad. So I'm just more for the experience because I really enjoyed it when I played it that first time. But yeah, I'm enjoying it so far. The only problem with mine is that if you guys are watching the video, you'll be able to see because literally the PS5 is right behind me. The TV I'm using that's next to it is absolutely diabolical because my main TV is stuck up my flat in Manchester and this one can't even do HD. So I've literally just been using all my games on performance mode because it's the only way I can actually tell any difference because like this TV is beyond crap. But just from what I've seen frame rate wise, it's pretty amazing. Like I played Miles Morales in 60 FPS and it was just like I couldn't go back to 30. Like I just could not physically do it because it's just so beautiful. So like frame rate side of things, it's amazing. Graphic wise, I don't really know as of yet. Like I say, when I get it linked up on my proper TV, I'll probably have a better idea. But so far, I've been pretty impressed.
Right on. That's awesome to hear. Glad to see you're enjoying it, and yeah, I can't wait for you to start Demon Souls. Charlie, what about you? What have you been playing for the last week or so?
I've been playing a mix of stuff this week. Interestingly enough, I did re-download the Outriders demo, this time on PC, because I'd heard a lot of people talking about it leading up to release this week, and I thought I'd give it another go, and I actually am really enjoying it on PC, which is odd, because I didn't think it was that great on when I played it on PS5. But I enjoyed what I was playing of it yesterday and today, so I ended up buying the game, so I'm going to give that a go this week. So I'll hopefully have more to say about that one when we record next week. So I've played a little bit of that. I did download Ratchet and Clank because I wanted to try out the patch, but I haven't gotten around to it yet. And then for what else I've been playing, mainly multiplayer stuff, so more League of Legends as per usual because I'm the scum of the earth. Some like COD here and there because they did release like a new map and stuff for the Outbreak mode. But yeah, that's about it. Nothing crazy this week because I've been pretty busy with work, to be honest.
You haven't played It Takes Two or anything like that?
Oh yeah, It Takes Two came out. How did I forget about that, bro? Oh man, yeah, no. I played and beat It Takes Two with one of my mates, and it's really, really good. I don't know how I forgot about that. It feels like that happened ages ago. That's crazy. But yeah, I really liked It Takes Two. In fact, I tweeted about it, and me and my mate have both said that it's probably one of the best platformers we've ever played. And he is like a massive Mario fan. Like he adores Galaxy 1 and 2. And for years he's told me like those are some of his favorite games of all time. And he was like saying when we beat It Takes Two that like he thinks that might be one of his favorite platformers. So like it's a good game. But yeah, I played that. That was very, very good. But I'm pretty sure other than that, I haven't played anything else.
Nice. Like you, I have been playing It Takes Two. I'm not nearly as far because I haven't beaten the game yet. I spoke to Charlie about it. Me and Justin are probably about like a third, way into the game. Apparently, it's a lot longer than A Way Out, which is really cool. Yeah, so far we're really enjoying it. We haven't had too much time to play. I think we played like the night of. We played like an hour and a half, and then we played on Monday another hour and a half, and then I think another day we played like another hour. So like we're maybe close to, with my math, like 4 or 5 hours into the game. Yeah, we're enjoying it quite a bit. And I think we can all agree that the gameplay is definitely way better than A Way Out. I feel like the story isn't as strong, but definitely they stepped up in terms of like gameplay mechanics and everything like that. Just much more interesting, and they constantly switch it up. So yeah, I'm looking forward to hopefully beating that by next week's episode. And I think I can speak for Justin. He's really enjoying it too. He's just trying to fit in time, and he's also been having like Wi-Fi issues, which is why he's not here today. But yeah, definitely enjoying that. Besides that, I am on spring break, and I have been playing a bit. Not as much as I've wanted to, but I still been knocking out some stuff. So I beat Demon Souls. That took me like a few hours. I was like near the end of the game. Obviously, I played on PS3, so I already knew what I was doing. Essentially just, going through the end of that game. Really enjoyed it. A lot of the bosses that actually like gave me so much trouble in the original are a lot easier now, because obviously the game's in 60 FPS. Like the final boss, if you keep... like I'm not going to spoil anything, but like it can get down to like 20 FPS because of like a certain enemy near that boss. And like just Blue Point, obviously, with the wizardry that they do, and obviously just the fact that the PS5 is way more powerful. You can actually fight that guy in 60 FPS without it tanking. So it's been nice to just revisit that. It's so beautiful. Like I mentioned in like a tweet, that game is literally a walking painting. Like it's constantly like crazy how well that game looks, and is honestly probably the best showcase for PS5 in my opinion. I think Astro is still like the best DualSense showcase, but in terms of like graphically and just all around great game, I don't think you could top Demon Souls right now. Besides that, I did pick up the Attack on Titan 2 game, I think, maybe about a week ago or so. I'm only like an hour or two, maybe 2 hours into that. Obviously, I watched the anime and figured I'd pick it up. Sadly, it just went on sale literally a few days ago, so of course that happens. But I want to say that's about it. I'm trying to think. Yeah, it's pretty much just been that.
VR here and there, right? But
yeah, we played Population 1 yesterday for like 30 minutes, but that's about it. Yeah. Anyways, I guess, since we last recorded Critically Incorrect, a little show called Invincible came out, and I think all of us have watched... Jan, have you watched the first 3 episodes?
I watched episode 1 literally last night. I loved it, but I didn't get a chance to watch the other 2. So
we could talk about episode 1. We probably won't talk about spoilers anyway, because I doubt everyone here that's watching the podcast has seen it, and there's no real reason to. So I guess we could just talk about the show in general. So I guess I'll leave it up to you, Charlie, to start off this conversation, being the Invincible fan that you are.
And, I mean, just before I get into this, I did actually make a video for once, which is crazy. So if you want to see like more of my opinions on the show and stuff, feel free to check that out.
I'll try to
it's good. It's good when Charlie comes out of his retirement just to advertise it.
To make a video. Yeah, exactly.
Go check it out.
And yeah, I really enjoyed the show. I think they've done a great job so far of adapting the comic, but not only that, also keeping it a little bit fresh for people like me who have read the comic and know the general beats that are going to happen throughout the show. And yeah, overall, they're doing a really great job. The casting is kind of insane. Like the amount of big names they've got in the show are crazy. There's a lot of Walking Dead people who may or may not stick around, but they're in the show nonetheless. But yeah, I'm really enjoying it. I can't wait to watch more. I can't wait to see you guys' reactions to stuff as it happens later on, because man oh man is the series a ride. So I'm excited to see where they go. There's a new episode tonight, so I can't wait to watch that. But yeah, it's very good. I'm enjoying it a lot.
Dan, what about you?
Yeah, same. Like I say, because I've only watched the first episode. I'm not as in depth with obviously as Charlie, who's not only seen all the episodes, he's also read the source material as well. So I'm completely blind on this. But yeah, I was blown away. I was kind of interested in it anyway because I'd seen the cast beforehand, and just the premise excited me because it kind of seemed like almost like an animated version of The Boys in a way, kind of with the take on the genre, but I really loved it. I thought it was amazing from the pilot episode. I really loved it. Like I say, I can't really say a whole lot because, again, only seen the first episode, but all I can say is if there's anyone here who hasn't watched it, take it from me as someone who knew nothing about the source material going in. It's amazing. Like, I had a blast of a time, and yeah, because I didn't even know that the new episode was out tonight, so I might actually binge the remaining 3 episodes tonight, just get them over and done with because I love it that much.
Nice, right on. My thoughts on it are pretty much the same as you guys. Like, I really enjoy it. I've read the first 2 issues, and I think I touched on this last week, but yeah, the show essentially just goes way more in depth in terms of like the animations, and I don't know, it's just way more easier to get invested in. And that first episode's crazy. I definitely think that if anyone, is still watching this podcast after this, just if you have the time, just go check out the pilot. Yeah, I'm definitely really enjoying it. It's nice. I was talking to Charlie about this like maybe a few weeks ago. I think you brought it up. It's like weird to have an animated show that lasts for 44 minutes like traditional live action shows do. So it's been really cool. Like I've been like constantly checking the time. I'm like, oh yeah, this isn't a 22-minute episode or something like that. Like it's a full on, hour-long episode, and it's definitely a ride. I'm looking forward to seeing tonight's episode, and just a blast. Like obviously Kirkman's like such a troll, so like a lot of that from Walking Dead that I remember carries over into this show too, with like tempering with your expectations. And as Charlie's been hinting at, I'm looking forward to seeing what comes up next. So definitely enjoying it, and yeah, we've got to convert more people into it. Anyways, this week in terms of gaming news, I guess we'll start right off with the releases. There's actually quite a bit of releases this week. So first of all, it's actually one that happened last week, but we didn't touch on it. Balan Wonderlands. This is from Square Enix. I believe that came out the same day as A Way Out, or It Takes Two last Friday on the 26th. That's for the PlayStation family of consoles, Xbox family of consoles, PC, and Switch. Also out this week is Doom 3 VR Edition. We talked about this a few weeks ago when they announced it. I believe I want to say that came out on Tuesday or so, or maybe even Monday. That's obviously out for PSVR. I included this just because I heard a lot of people talking about this Naruto Boy. I believe this is an indie game. This also came out on Monday, out on PS4, Xbox, PC, and Switch. I just heard really good praises for this game. I haven't personally seen much of it, but definitely go look it up if you're interested. I believe it's, I want to say, 2D indie game that's getting a lot of praise. As well. Yeah, I think that's also a big reason why it's been mentioned is Game Pass as well. In terms of updates, No Man's Sky got a new update. They always tend to, announce these the day they come out, which is really cool. So this one's called the Expeditions update. I believe it's like a new mode where you could spawn on a world with a few friends or just online random people and go off and do, various objectives. I think they included things like a new jetpack, new visor, just, more No Man's Sky updates for you to go enjoy. Really cool to see this game still get updates. That came out, I want to say, yesterday, actually. So if you're still playing that, go check it out. And then I think the big release this week is Outriders. This is also from Square Enix. Just came out today as we're recording this, out on PS5 or, PS5, PS4, Xbox One, Xbox Series X, and PC. So this is essentially, Square Enix's single-player co-op RPG game. I'm sure you've seen it before. It's finally out today, and it's actually doing quite well. I think currently on Steam, it has like over 100,000 concurrent players. Like, it's kind of blowing expectations away. So really cool to see there. And I guess, Charlie, if you said you talked a bit about it, you're going to be playing it more for next week, but you're definitely enjoying it so far, because I think you're the only one here that's bought in the full game so far, right?
Yeah, like I was saying to you like beforehand and stuff, like I was not planning to buy it at launch. I think I even mentioned it on the podcast. Like I was like, oh, this game will probably be like super cheap a few weeks after launch.
Yeah.
And like I wasn't planning to buy it, and then it was just a case of I revisited the demo and was like, you know what, I'm in the mood for a game like this, and so decided to pick it up. It's crazy to see how well it's doing. Like literally the hour it came out, I think it reached 75,000. So it was like, and I think the peak for Avengers on Steam was like 30 something thousand. So like people were saying if you had told Square Enix last year that like Outriders, which is a new IP from a pretty unknown studio, would do better on day one than an Avengers video game, like they would have called you crazy. So yeah, it's really odd that it's doing so well on PC at least. Xbox I understand because it's on Game Pass for console. But it being so popular on PC is really interesting to me. Like I haven't seen tons of people like hyping it up that they were buying it. So yeah, I'm excited to play it. It's cool that it's doing so well. So yeah.
I actually am glad I mentioned this because this is actually a game I forgot to mention that I played. I think I literally played this just like an hour ago. I played the demo. I played like 45 minutes, essentially just the opening, I guess, mission or so. And yeah, I'm definitely, enjoying it. It comes across a bit generic to me, which I definitely understand. I think, like you, Charlie, I might download it on PC to see if I enjoy it there more, because I know definitely you didn't like it as much on PlayStation before you moved over to PC. So I don't know if I'll end up buying this game. We'll see. Definitely a lot to play right now. I'm kind of trying to go through my backlog before the slew of like May games come out. I'm sure I'll have an answer for next week's episode, but yeah, definitely kind of surprised it's doing so well. And yeah, in terms of gaming news this week, not anything crazy, just kind of like a standard week. A lot of it actually comes from Cyberpunk, but I guess we'll first start with the PS Plus games for April. These were announced just, I want to say, yesterday. So this month, obviously, we already knew that we're going to get Oddworld. That was announced at the State of Play, so I believe that's going to be coming out on the 6th. Also out is going to be Days Gone and Zombie Army 4. So I guess those are like essentially the PS4 games. Obviously, if you're a PS5 owner, you get all the games as you always have for like the last, half a year or so. Definitely, I'd say, I don't know, people are complaining that this is like a weak month, but like if you consider what's out on the PS5, like Oddworld is essentially like the best you can kind of get. I was like saying, I think in our Discord, like the only game that could have been better than Oddworld that's like a new release would have been like essentially, I guess, Outriders. But yeah, what did you guys think about this month?
I think it's a pretty cool month. I saw loads of people complaining that Days Gone was on there because it's part of PS Plus collection. But then I think people forget that there's a ton of people that don't have PS5s. So,
Yeah.
like, it is
Yeah.
a PS4 game. It's not a PS5 game. So, like, it makes sense. They've got, like, 50 million PS Plus users or whatever. And probably, like, 40 million of those, if not, well, I guess 45 million of those, around about that, don't have PS5s. So, like, that's a ton of people that could potentially not have played Days Gone. Zombie Army 4 is a bit of a weak one, I think, just because I didn't hear great things when it came out. But it's PS Plus. Like, what do you expect? The main games are the PS5 ones now, and I think Oddworld's a great one. I saw people complaining about Oddworld as well, but I'm like, if it's not for you, it's not for you. But there's still it's like a cult classic type series. Like, it's very popular in that niche audience, and I'm sure it'll do very well. But PS Plus just boosts that, so I think it's cool that it's there day one.
Yeah, I was probably gonna pick up Oddworld even if it wasn't gonna be free, so that was definitely nice to just save money in that aspect. So looking forward to playing that. That's the Oddworld. I think I've asked this like multiple times, but this is like a remake of a previous Oddworld title, right?
Yeah, it's a remake of the second one, so it's a sequel
Okay.
to New and Tasty, which was a remake of the original.
Okay, so maybe I'll have to play New and Tasty over the weekend or something.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Anyways, actually, this week has seen a lot of patches. Tried to include this, outside of out this week because obviously those are like new content releases. But Ratchet and Clank essentially got a 60 FPS patch. This is a bit of a surprise. Essentially, what happened was I think Insomniac tweeted out like 2 days ago, just saying, "Hey, we got a 60 FPS patch coming out in April. Look forward to it." Just a straight, unlocking the frame rate cap. And then the next day they're like, "Oh yeah, it's actually out today, so go check it out." And it was like not even April, so that's cool to see. And then I think as well on that same day they announced a Spider-Man Miles Morales patch that came out with like a new suit. And then for those that have the game on PS5, there's like this new kind of technique for muscle deformation. So realistically, I think I saw like a comparison. The realism between like seeing the suit and how like Miles' shoulders kind of like defines it seems a bit more realistic. Obviously, it's like in the details, right? Like you're not going to essentially replay this game to see it, but it's just really cool to see that Insomniac got like 2 free patches out this week. I'm not going to re-download Miles Morales. I did actually download Ratchet and Clank just to check it out. I played like 2 minutes, literally, that's about it. And it's really nice in 60 FPS, but like obviously if I want to, play more, I'm going to replay the game, and I just don't have the time, at least right now. I do think I do want to replay Ratchet and Clank sometime before Rift Apart, but I'm not sure, so yeah. Did any of you guys check out any of those games past the patches?
Yeah, I checked out both of them because I was playing Miles Morales. I think it was last night, just for the fun of it. Obviously, with the patch, I can't really tell shit because of the fact that my TV's that bad. I can't see half of the muscle deformations or anything. So, so I was mainly just playing it for that. Like, I couldn't really notice a thing, but the new suit was pretty cool. That was pretty nice to check out. And then for Ratchet and Clank, like you, Brandon, I've been in the midst of replaying it in preparation for the new game this year. So I've been replaying that. The 60 FPS on there, just bliss. It's beautiful. So can't really fault that. But the fact that they've just dumped out these 2 patches within this week, it's a madness. But no, I was pretty impressed with both of them.
I know Charlie said you haven't played the Ratchet patch yet, and I'm guessing you haven't with Miles either.
I haven't played Miles. I don't actually. I don't think I have Miles installed anymore. I think I uninstalled it to make room for other stuff.
I did that too once I got the plot.
Yeah, because it was like I played a bit more like just swinging around and stuff. But I was like, realistically, like, how often am I gonna hop back in for like 5 minutes? Like, what's the point? Because it was taking up like 40 gig or something. So I was like,
it's a
I'll
beefy
just delete
game
it for now. But yeah, Ratchet, I've reinstalled. I definitely want to replay it before Rift Apart, even though they're not really like connected.
They're not related at all, yeah.
But I do want to replay it because I might go for the platinum at some point. Because I remember I was like pretty close to getting the platinum. I think I just had to do the replay on like that challenge mode or something. So I might do that. I do know as well. People have said it's got like a much better resolution as well. It's not capped at 1080p, so it like upscales to 4K as well. So it's a little bit crisper. If you've got a higher resolution display as well. Sorry, Dan. But yeah. so I'm looking forward to see what that looks like as well. But yeah.
Yeah. Once again, we always got to mention this. Naughty Dog, where's your PS5 support? My God. It's like literally like Insomniac's going above and beyond and going back to their 2016 title. Yeah, Naughty Dog has a 2020 game that they haven't touched yet. I mean, obviously with part 2, I imagine it's probably because they're saving it for a Game of the Year release. Like, I no doubt believe that's going to happen. But yeah, still, like, they have Uncharted 4, Last of Us Remastered, Lost Legacy, but whatever. I'm not talking about this again. Anyways, we talked about this last week, and Cyberpunk's 1.2 patch came out. Beefy patch notes. There was like a meme online of just seeing how long this patch
just the long ass notes of patch.
Nothing new really content-wise. It's all like bug fixes mainly, so the game should be in a better state. I jumped in for like literally 2 minutes, and I noticed the frame rate was a bit better. I think I was like driving through downtown, and I usually got like 90 FPS back in like December when I played the game, and I was at like 99 or so. I don't know if that was the patch itself. It could have just been like what was happening in the scene at that moment, but take that with what you will. There was actually quite a bit of CD Projekt Red news in general. So if I'm getting this right, I believe they acquired like a new studio in Vancouver it's meant to be like a support studio, right?
Yeah, so I'm forgetting the name of the studio. I don't know if you have it up, Brandon, but they're a support studio. They've helped out on a ton of different games over the years, but most recently they helped out quite heavily with Cyberpunk. So it seems like they just thought, hey, we might as well acquire these people, bring in another studio just to help us out with all these patches and things. It makes sense. It seems like they've been working with them for a few years. So it was a natural kind of acquisition for them. Especially, like, we'll get to with the direction they're going forward from, like, next year, where they want to kind of combine dev cycles so they're not split between projects and stuff.
Yeah, so obviously with like AAA gaming, I feel like people have like a false idea of like what goes on in the background. Like a lot of times there's a lot of outsourcing that goes on to like various different countries and teams that help out on projects. I'm sure you notice this if you pay attention to the credits. It's not just all, one studio in particular. They often get help. So it makes sense, especially with the games that, are on the scale of their games like Cyberpunk. Makes sense. To what Charlie was alluding to, essentially on their earnings call or shareholder meetings is one of the two. CD Projekt Red essentially made a few announcements on the business side and just kind of what their plan is going forward. One of the ones was, as Charlie said, is they're planning on developing games kind of synchronously together. So I believe they had like an image of like what The Witcher and Cyberpunk, not necessarily that they're making like The Witcher 4 and Cyberpunk 2077 too, but just essentially working on future installments to like existing IPs, maybe new IPs, but like essentially trying to get those kind of developing alongside each other, so they don't have, gaps between, essentially what they're talking about, with like what we saw with Witcher 3 to Cyberpunk 2077. I imagine after, Cyberpunk 2077, they're in a position where they can do that. I'm pretty sure they're pretty sizable at that point, despite, all the fire that they got because of that game's release. It's interesting to note that they did talk about, the backlash to Cyberpunk 2077, and they talked about how in the future they want to announce their games, later towards, the actual release. Anyone that was following the Cyberpunk drama knows that, like, apparently those E3 demos were fake. A lot of times they are, because they're just trying to get, like, a slice of the game ready to be shown. They're just trying to essentially focus on, game development first and foremost, and then talk about, the corporate side of things in terms of showing these games off later on in that cycle, which I think is always a good thing. Yeah.
Interestingly, with that, they did say that it doesn't mean that they won't tease projects way earlier like they normally do.
Oh, really?
So yeah, they said that for bigger projects like Witcher 4, which is probably going to be their next game.
You think?
Yeah, they've talked about doing a new Witcher title for a few years now. So it won't be Geralt, but it'll be a new Witcher main game. But like, I imagine they will reveal that in the next year or two, but they won't talk about it much. It'll just be, here's the game we're working on, here's the title, we're going back to work, kind of thing.
Yeah, just going
essentially what they did in 2012 with Cyberpunk.
Yeah, Cyberpunk, and when they announced Witcher 3 as well, like, that's literally what they did with both those games. When it comes to the whole, like, working side by side thing, the way they explained it was that they're gonna have, like, a dedicated team within CDPR that is the tech and code side of things, that will code literally the engine, basically, so that they can work on these projects simultaneously and share assets, rather than having the Red Engine 3, I think it was, with Wild Hunt, and then having to basically rebuild it all for Cyberpunk, because it's a completely different game. So I think the idea is, with like the multiplayer side of things, and when they program all that stuff, they don't just have to use it in one project, they can use it across anything they do in the future. Because that seems to be one of the big downfalls of Cyberpunk, was that it was like they couldn't really use much from what they'd done in the past. It was like built from the ground up, which I think really slowed them down.
Yeah, anyone that's followed also like the Valve news knows that developing an engine alongside a game is not necessarily the best thing. So having like a dedicated team to work on those tools while you're cranking it out definitely seems healthy. Another announcement they did make was the previously announced AAA Cyberpunk multiplayer title that they're working on. They said that it's not necessarily going to be its own separate game now, so they didn't really clarify on their wording too much what that could be. Maybe it's saved for a sequel. I feel like it also might be, Charlie, you were talking about this, and it might be included in like another game possibly going forward here in the future. Do you have any ideas of what they meant by that?
I wouldn't be surprised if this ties into the whole thing of sharing it between IPs. Like, if we get a multiplayer mode in the next Witcher type thing where you're going on hunts together and that kind of stuff, like, it seems like a natural progression for them to put it in multiple IPs they're working on. I don't know what else they'll be doing outside of like those two. It seems like Witcher and Cyberpunk is their focus for the long term. They want to turn Cyberpunk into the next Witcher for them, where they can put it into multimedia. They've already talked about like
they talked kind of like
and
shows or something,
shows and comics, and Witcher's obviously got the mobile game that came out in like New Zealand and stuff. So like they're trying to stretch out outside of just mainstream games. And so it could just mean stuff like that, like new mobile games. Like I think they talked about having like a Cyberpunk mobile game as well at some point, whatever that means. But yeah, it's an interesting direction. I hope it works out for them, but at the same time, I just don't want them to get too big for their boots, because that is ultimately why Cyberpunk failed, and it's just because the shareholders and the higher ups said, hey, we made a really good game. It doesn't matter what this game turns out like, because we made a good one. This one will be good, right? That's how this works.
We did it before.
So, yeah, as long as they learn that time is what makes a game good, not just shoving money into it. That's just not how these things work.
And good leadership as well.
Exactly. So, hopefully it works out. Only time will tell. I guess the the closest thing we'll get to hearing stuff to do with all this new turn for CDPR will be when more of these patches and things come out for Cyberpunk. So
Yeah. And then the last announcement essentially was that their paid expansions has been delayed out of 2021.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I think that's the right call to make, especially considering they have a lot of stuff they need to do before those come out. Things like the next gen version, patches. And then I think they're still doing like free, kind of like small size, DLCs. So, definitely focus on those first and foremost. And then obviously with those paid expansions, they want to be like definitely, pretty lengthy and worth buying. So definitely keep those in the oven for a bit more. I'm actually personally excited to see what those turn out to be because I'm definitely craving a bit more Cyberpunk after beating the game. But definitely, they need to fix what they kind of already put out there before they move on to more content. So that's good to see. Like you, I definitely think that they need I don't know, like everything they came out with was like, good in terms of how it reads, but it does come across as really ambitious. So I just really hope that they don't, go for the same mistakes that happened in the past, given, what Cyberpunk turned out to be and how it's been reception-wise. Dan, do you have any thoughts on this? I know you haven't really played Cyberpunk, but...
No, I've only really played a bit of it because I played it at a friend of mine's. I think it was on the PS4. This was like well in the early days, and it was just an absolute abomination. So it kind of nudged me to not want to buy the game in its current state. It's one that I might think about buying in the future, but I think it's just because like I've just obviously seen all the opinions online about how it was broken at launch and all the patches, and then all of the updates that CD Projekt Red just keep on doing, which to me as an outsider just is getting to the point where it's just a meme at this rate, just how often it happens. But I did see all the stuff that they announced. Like you guys, I just hope they don't try and get too over ambitious for what they can actually achieve, because that was the problem with Cyberpunk. That's what ultimately killed it at launch, and with all this extra stuff, I can see why they're doing it, but at the same time, it is a lot to try and do, on top of the fact that you're already trying to fix a game which has had its reputation really shattered for quite some time. So I'm interested for it, but fingers crossed they don't shoot themselves in the foot with it.
Yeah, definitely. In other news, this is actually a news story from Media Molecule. Essentially one of the leaders there, Saban Reddy. I'm sure you've seen her in some of the Dreams, live streams before in the past if you watch those. She commented on kind of Media Molecule's support in terms of, from Sony after the Dreams release, and she said that Sony's really behind what they're doing there and investing into the studio to grow even further. She said that they also are working on making Dreams, the tools and creations accessible outside of just PlayStation platforms. So that one to me at the very end screams that they might do a Steam release, just because I've always felt that makes the most sense for that game's, longevity. Nonetheless, I'm really excited to hear about this because Media Molecule is one of the studios that I was kind of thinking might have been on the ropes after Dreams, because I definitely don't think that game sold well. Especially considering how long it took to come out. Like I can't see them being in green profit-wise after all those years of development. Because Dreams was initially announced at the PS4 event.
Yeah, it was
crazy. Yeah. Nonetheless, Dreams is still very impressive. I think anyone that owns that game definitely has only like really praise about it. Definitely very impressive, and it's always nice to have a studio like Media Molecule that just goes in a different direction than most games now, and just kind of go for creativity. So definitely really cool to see. Do you guys have anything to add on that?
Not played Dreams, so I'm the worst person to ask for that. I've just been making memes about it since its announcement to release.
Yeah, it's definitely been like a Geik meme we had way back then, that game would never come out.
I mean, that was me. I did constantly rib you about that. I do remember that.
Charlie, anything you want to add?
Yeah, I think it's interesting that they are, like, Sony is really behind them, as she put it. Like, I would imagine this is more a thing of Sony are like, hey, you made a game that didn't do too well, but you've also made us a ton of money in the past. It's okay. We'll start working on something new. Like, it's not like every game they've made for the past 15 years has been awful. Like, Little Big Planet 1 and 2 were massive successes and gave them an IP that has made them a ton of money. It was on PSP and Vita and now Sackboy and all the merch and stuff. So, like, I imagine they want to stay around because they are a very creative studio. And, like, Dreams has a ton of potential, but it just didn't get the right attention, I don't think. And I also don't think that really knew what they wanted to do with it. Like I think they wanted to make it just a creative engine tool that you could make stuff, but there was a lot of worry probably from Sony and from people that saw it saying, "Hey, is this actually a game?"
Yeah.
And so it was really hard to put that into marketing what it really was. And even when I remember playing it like before, like a year or two before it came out at EGX, and being confused because the stuff that was playable was levels that they had created, but they weren't like the levels they used in the campaign. They were just some random mini games. And like they didn't at the booth, they weren't really showing the creation tools. So you're like, well, is that the main focus? Like, what is the direction you're going with it? So I think that's the biggest problem with Dreams. I think it's really cool if it does come to PC. I think that would be a great idea because you'd have way more possibilities because you've got much more powerful hardware, and you know, VR headsets. There's more you can do with them on PC, and it's weird that they're saying like accessible outside the Sony ecosystem. Does that mean it'll just be a website where you can view these things? Like, I
That
hope
already
not.
exists essentially, but
Does it? I know they did stuff for Little Big Planet in the past, right, on browser and things, but I was like, I hope that's not what they mean. They're planning to do with Dreams. I mean, they teased a PC release before it came out, so I would hope that's what they're alluding to here. And hey, bring it to Xbox as well. I think that'd be a great shout. Just put it on every platform you possibly can. We're living in a world where anything is possible, so they should totally try and put it on as much as they can.
yeah, for me, I always thought that the thing about Dreams that hurt itself more than what they could have learned with Little Planet is that they didn't really have a face for Dreams. It was essentially just, a game engine, right? And for the casual audience, like, it's very hard to understand why you're buying this game. I think with Little Planet, like, as a kid, I bought that game thinking it was a platformer first and foremost, and then you have like the creation tools on the side that give the game longevity and blew up because of that. But at the end of the day, you still had Sackboy in the box, and you still had that selling point for it. With Dreams, you never really had that, so I feel like that was probably a big reason why it, didn't do as well as it could have. That being said, I definitely wonder going forward. I mean, obviously they're going to continue supporting Dreams. I'd love to see them work and, bring it to PSVR 2, bring it to Steam, and keep that support alive, right? But then looking ahead at what their next project, which ultimately they're going to have to do at some point, I wonder if they're going to go back to something like Little Planet or like Tearaway even, where you have like a game, essentially there still, rather than just creation tools, especially after Dreams. I don't know if you can really top what you did with the creation tool like that. They essentially made a game engine. Like, sure, you can make a better one and like hand it off as Dreams 2 or something, but just knowing that team over there, I imagine they're probably going to want to work on something fresh and new next.
I
So
think
it'll
the
be
best
interesting.
thing they could do would just be to make their next project in Dreams. I think they should just full on use Dreams as their engine, and then they can literally put that in marketing. Hey, this is a new game from the guys who made Little Big Planet, and it was also made in an engine that you can use right now. Like, that would be the coolest thing. I don't know how they'd financially do that, because then you're like, well, surely if it was made in Dreams, I can just go and play it in Dreams. But I think that would be a really cool way of doing it, because they've worked for however many years on these tools. So it would make sense if they try and use it themselves, because it is crazy the stuff you can make in that.
I always thought it would be a great game to include as well for in the PS Plus collection in terms
Yeah.
of like making it accessible. I don't know why it's not.
Well, it
on
hasn't
the-
got a patch, right, on PS5, which is crazy.
Yeah. They just include it, just add it to the PS Plus collection so that if you own a PS5, you get it for free. Or make it, at the very least, a PS Plus game for like May or something. Or whenever you do another big, update. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like they're dropping the ball kind of in terms of getting people onto that game. Like, they had marketing sure around it, but they haven't really done anything to, I don't know, spike up that player base in a while. So, wish them for the best over there. And anyway, other news, the new Warzone map, which I could have sworn, I keep hearing about this every single month. It finally leaked, and essentially what it's going to be is an 80s style of Verdansk. So it's like not a new map, which people are talking about. It's gonna essentially just kind of like a redesign. I'm sure there's gonna be like some POIs there that get, completely overhauled. Like, I believe they were throwing around like Stadium apparently is gonna be in like a construction kind of state. And then I think it's also been mentioned in like articles that apparently like some other areas are just going to be simply just reskinned as like an 80s theme. Obviously, currently, the Warzone map is made with, Modern Warfare in mind. So this is essentially going to kind of make it, more Black Ops Cold War style, which I feel like is kind of late considering that game launched like half a year ago, but, whatever. Still cool to see. It is not cool to see that there are, DMCA taking down leaks like this. I know that Andy, the main lead reporter at VGC, was dealing with like his Twitter account being suspended for like a bit of time because he reported on the leaks, didn't even like give an actual link to leaked footage, just mentioned it existed and he got taken down. But yeah, I'm not sure. Does anyone here still play Warzone? I definitely was into it for like the first half of last year with friends, but I don't play now. But yeah.
Yeah, I played it quite a bit, but since I've moved on to the PS5, I've barely touched it because, as you can imagine, I haven't really touched PS4, and I'm kind of worried because I've heard a lot of stuff about how much space it just takes up on the PS5. Like, how bad is it space-wise?
I heard there was like a 133 gigabyte update this week, and I hope that was false, because if not, that's crazy.
It's like 90 gig, but the like in total,
Jesus.
not the update, but like the update was like 100 and something, but it's if you had Modern Warfare's campaign, multiplayer, co-op all installed. But again, it's not actually adding that onto the file size. You're just downloading it and then it's replacing like half the files. So I think it was like a 50 gig update, I think, for Warzone. But again, the file size didn't go up. I think it went down a little bit.
That's good, at least.
Personally, for me, like Warzone, I really like gameplay wise. I think it's really good, and I enjoyed it when it first came out. But it got really bad with balance issues, and then there's still a massive problem with cheating and glitches. Like the stim glitch that's in the game currently has been in the game like 6-7 times at this point. And it's really weird, and there's like no communication because nobody really knew for like 6 months who was working on the game. Like they didn't know if it was Infinity Ward or Raven, and like they don't have a community manager, and there's no real patch notes for Warzone. Like nobody really knows what's being changed.
That's crazy.
It's like a complete mess. And like this map was meant to come out in November. Like it was meant to come out with Cold War and got delayed, and I don't think that's going to help the community at all because they've been hyping up that it's going to be a brand new map for months. I mean, there's been talks of the map getting nuked since like May of last year.
Yeah,
so like because it's been in the files for so long, and the rumors for so long were that it was going to be a brand new map with all the Fireteam maps from Cold War kind of combined, and the stuff from Outbreak. But it seems like that's not what's happening at all. And like you said, it is just like a reskin with some slightly changed points of interest. And I'm sure some of the areas from Fireteam will get chucked into the map, but overall, it's going to be the same map, just retooled a little bit. So yeah, I'm looking forward to see the backlash from the community because once again, Activision will probably do nothing because that's what they always do. So we'll see. I really want Warzone to be good because I do enjoy it, but it's a mess of a game. I just hope it doesn't go to the point where the cool audience that don't pay attention to the bugs and hackers and stuff, I just hope it doesn't get to the point where they leave the game, because once that happens, the game's dead. And I don't want it to die because I do really like it. So they just need to get that act together and start actually patching stuff and shit, and people play it.
Yeah, definitely. And then, I guess that apparently is planned for the end of April, like the 23rd, I think, was thrown around or somewhere around there. Yeah. So I'm sure we'll hear about that in the coming weeks. Anyways, probably our biggest story this week is kind of sad. This was rumored last week, but it was essentially confirmed officially by Sony themselves. They're going to be closing down the store for PS3, PSP, and Vita. Very sad. I believe July 7th is the date for PS3 and PSP, and then I believe it's like a month or so later for the Vita in August. Interestingly enough, on the Vita side of things, apparently developers weren't told ahead of time, so there's actually games that are currently being in production right now for the Vita that are either being canceled, being like hella crunched because now they have like a 4-month deadline to get this game out, or else it just can't release. it's kind of a shit show apparently.
That's mad.
Yeah, it's not a big deal, obviously, for the PS3 or PSP, because obviously those platforms are very legacy, and if you're making a game for the PS3, you can obviously just make it for the PS4 or PS5. But with the Vita, obviously, there's like a cult community there that's the only PlayStation handheld, really, currently, that's like being used and being supported, so very shitty there, but yeah, it's very sad to see. I believe you're going to be able to re-download the games that you do own, so that was like a major concern, but that's like been kind of diminished, but still, you won't be able to buy these games after those deadlines, which is sad to see. So kind of was like a awakening call for a lot of people that, digital licenses are at the mercy of, the publishers. At any moment, all of our digital games can essentially be revoked and ended, if the servers go down, or as we see in this case, if they're just going to move on to a different, system. So kind of scary, kind of sad. I personally, a lot of my PS3 games right now are physical, and then yeah, it's not going to affect me too much. It is still sad to see, because obviously, if I do want to, revisit the PS3, say in the fall, I won't be able to just on a dime pick up a game on the store and play it. I'll have to actually, order it off Amazon or eBay and get it shipped to my house, or find another way to access these titles. But yeah, what'd you guys think about this?
I think it's kind of sad that it's happening. I mean, this is the first kind of generation that's being shut down like this. Like, this is because it's a big deal, mainly because on PS3 there are quite a few digital only games. So this is kind of the first time we're seeing an entire catalog of games that you can't purchase anymore. And there has been some really interesting discussion online about what this means for conservation of games, because there are people that collect this stuff and want to have a history of games that people can look back on, and this does make it a lot more difficult, because even though you are able to like re-download these games if you already own them, if you don't own them, or if, say, you lose access to your account, it becomes a whole lot harder to get access to these games, because there are a ton of digital games. There's not as many as, say, on things like PS4 and things, which will be interesting when we get to the point where even Xbox 360 gets shut down, because there was a lot more digital only games on Xbox 360. But yeah, I think it's sad, but also it makes sense. The only thing I'll say is just, if you want these games, make sure to buy them before this date, so then you can still download them. But it sucks that it has to happen, but
yeah,
it has
just
to
kind of
at
makes
some
backwards
point.
compatibility like such an important aspect. Like, that helps a lot in terms of preserving these games. Like,
yeah,
with PS3, obviously you can't really play them on your PS4, so you're kind of stuck with that system. And now, once these stores are dead, like, there's a lot of restrictions with those PS3 games. And then in terms of just going forward, it will be interesting to see what happens. Yeah, it's kind of sad to see. I know we kind of had this first happen with the Wii, but that wasn't like too big of a deal, because obviously it's a very different system. The PS3 is like a main, PlayStation device that, as Charlie said, had a lot of digital only games. I know I have on my PS3 currently that, if I delete those games or something like that, like, there might not be another situation where I can play them unless I bought a PS3 that has it installed. But yeah, it's crazy. Just a sad reality with the digital era, one of the ugly tropes to it. But yeah, definitely go pick up those games before, the summer if you're interested in playing them.
yeah.
Otherwise, it's going to be a lot harder to find them. Sad to see. Anyways, another news story that I think this actually broke literally a few minutes after we recorded last week's episode, Charlie, with
Yeah, I think it
Kojima
did,
Productions. Essentially the art director, Yoji Shikawa, I believe I'm pronouncing that right, he said that they're going to be announcing their game quite soon. I hate the word soon. Soon is like such a terrible word, because so many publishers have different meanings, or people have different meanings to what soon means. To me, this doesn't really mean anything. I feel like maybe it means, within the next 365 days, literally. But yeah, soon. Gotta love that word. Obviously, speaking realistically on it, Kojima Productions, I guess, has been, in development on their next game for at least a year and a half now. You gotta imagine. They worked on that PC port or PC version for, Death Stranding, but I can't imagine that a lot of that took a lot of, of their support. I think Kojima has had an interest in horror games in the past. Obviously, with Silent Hill, and he's been teasing possibly returning to that. So I kind of want to see him do a horror game. We've talked
Yeah.
about this in the past, podcast episodes. Either way, it's kind of exciting. I know a lot of people are looking forward to seeing what Kojima is going to work on next after Death Stranding. Do you guys have anything you want to add to that, or what you want to see from Kojima next?
I'm psyched for it. Same as you. I'd like to see him do a horror game just because I loved PT so much, and it's a shame obviously he never got to work on Silent Hills because I could just imagine what it would have been based off PT. But yeah, I'd love to see him follow up on that. I think it's pretty clear that he has got a love for that genre, and he would definitely like to make a game like that. So I'd like to see him do something like that. Because with Death Stranding, I played a bit of it. Still haven't brought the full game. I've been meaning to. It was alright, but it was definitely different from what I thought it was going to be. But then again, it's Kojima, so I should have really not expected that. But yeah, I'd say for me, I'd like to see him make a horror game, whether it be like Silent Hills IP or not. Just something in that genre, I think it'd be pretty cool.
Charlie?
Yeah, I'd like to see him do a horror game. I think most people have been hoping he'll do that next. Interestingly, there was a few rumors recently that the next thing is going to be a sequel to Death Stranding. I think it was to do with this where Yoji Shinkawa had tweeted out a picture or something, and he'd been drawing some new Death Stranding artwork that had like the Bridges logo and stuff. So people were saying, well, why is he doing all this new artwork for Death Stranding if the game's been out for ages? And also, like, Norman Reedus had said that he's looking forward to working with Kojima on future projects. And I think it'd be kind of weird if he's like a character in a completely different Kojima game. So
Could it possibly be that rumored
it could be DLC.
director's
There was
cut? Yeah.
Yeah, so that it could be that. There were also some people saying it could be that the next project is DLC for Death Stranding, which is entirely possible. But yeah, I mean, they could be working on multiple projects. They're not a small team, so it's entirely possible that they're mainly working on a sequel to Death Stranding, but they have got a smaller team, including Kojima, working in smaller pre-production on a horror game. Because obviously a Death Stranding sequel would take a lot less time than the original did, even though that game was made pretty quick for a new IP. So they could easily do that in a few years. I mean, how long was Death Stranding? Was only like 3 years, right, in development.
It's crazy,
so
yeah.
it's insane how quickly they did make that game for its size and scope. So they could easily make a sequel and it come out like next year. So
that'd be crazy. Yeah. It'll be interesting. I don't like speculating on a lot of that stuff because obviously I feel like every single time we're always wrong, but nonetheless it's exciting. It kind of like reminded me that it's been a year and a half since we last heard from them. So I know there's that whole thing. I think like last year they had that like anniversary date in December, and people were expecting to possibly have an announcement there. We never really got anything. I imagine if they do announce something next, it doesn't have to be a Sony, but they definitely have good relationships with them. So who knows? But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we hear about it this year, especially if like that rumored of Death Stranding, DLC or, director's cut thing is, real at all. So yeah. Anyways, our last two news stories actually broke this morning. The first one has to do with E3 2021. We talked about this in the past when there was like rumblings about a digital showcase. Essentially, the ESA confirmed it today that there is going to be a digital event. There are some rumors that possibly there was going to be a paywall, and there still is the potential for there to be a paywall, but they said that at least for watching the events, it's going to be free for everyone. I believe the current reporting from Andy was that they haven't commented on his request for comment on his report this morning on essentially there possibly being like a paywall for potentially, panels or certain game demos. So that's potentially, something that they could have. It's funny, I saw like a tweet from Jeff saying free to play and hashtag Summer Game Fest. So this is going to be kind of like competing with what Jeff's doing as well. It's going to be interesting. Obviously, we don't know who signed up. They still need support and funding. I imagine as I saw a tweet, I don't know who tweeted it out, but they're kind of like speculating that it's going to be a lot more independent publishers. Like I imagine that Sony won't be involved. Xbox is like 50-50 in my opinion, and like they're kind of all doing their own thing. They don't really need to be
Yeah.
signed up for the ESA because they can literally just announce like a new Nintendo Direct or a new State of Play for June, and they're gonna have so many people watching that they don't need to pay ESA a dime. It'll be interesting. This is like the first year where we're gonna see them have like a replacement. Last year, just E3 didn't exist. It was just a free for all with all the publishers doing their own thing. This year, they're actually like somewhat ready for it, and they're gonna try to have like a digital event. What was that?
The summer game mess.
Oh yeah, Jeff Grubb's Summer Game Mess. That's the best mess of them all.
I think there was a couple of reports saying that like a lot of the bigger publishers might have stuff at this event, but their big announcements will be done by them, which makes sense because that way all eyes are on you rather than E3 in general.
Yeah.
It also begs the question with all these like paid demos and that kind of thing, what they're thinking, because Steam have been doing the free demo festival things for like the past year and a half now, which have been doing really well for Steam and a lot of indie developers to get people playing their games. They did some stuff with Summer Games Fest last year. Obviously, Jeff's teasing new stuff this year. Xbox did a free event. So, like, I don't know how you convince people to pay money to basically play advertisements. Like, that's all it is, right? So I don't know how that will work out unless they have some insanely big games that you can try out, which I doubt. Like, I don't know how anyone's going to pay for that. I think also VGC did say that, or Andy tweeted out saying that he'd heard that they, with the like demos and stuff, oh, it's just gone. Why is it gone from my head? I need to find this tweet. Feel free to talk about it. I'm gonna.
Yeah. To add on to what Charlie was saying, like I think there was gonna be like a big kind of shift in terms of how E3 and these kind of events are done. We kind of seen like the beginnings of that over the last few years. I know Reggie's been like a big advocate for playable demos in the past as well, especially given the medium that games are. When you have like Comic-Cons for like shows, trailers make sense because that's what you're watching. But with games, you're kind of just adapting the same kind of format. You're watching a trailer for a game that you could be trying out yourself. Obviously, there's like other issues where demos aren't, in some publishers' eyes, demos can do more harm than good, because if you don't like the game, you're not going to get a purchase for it. But yeah, it'll be interesting. Obviously, for those things to kind of like continue for the years to come, there needs to be big backing. Like we need to have like Nintendo and Sony, giving us like the latest demos for like the biggest releases. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if we, possibly come to a reality where that becomes the normal. Just because I feel like that'd be a lot more exciting. Because I always feel like as the amount of E3s I've watched over the years kind of accumulate, like I see these exciting trailers, but in the back of my mind, I'm like, I've seen these before, and the games turn out to be kind of in the past. So having like an actual slice of the game to try out, I definitely think that would be really exciting to see. So who knows? I definitely am like for that though. So yeah, were you able to find the tweet, Charlie?
No, I've completely blanked on it. I don't know what I was gonna say. It literally, I don't know what's happened. It literally just, as in the middle of talking, I just completely forgot what I was gonna say, and now I can't find what it was. But hey ho, overall, E3 is a mess. And, it's
basically
dead.
It's like essentially, like I said this before, like I think last year or something like that. Like publishers are gonna realize they don't need to pay millions of dollars for to be at like a one dedicated event now. Like I think Nintendo was like the first one that tried this out like years ago, right? And they've seen success with it, and now we see like Sony and Xbox all doing their digital showcases. With like the rise of COVID, obviously now they kind of have to. There's just no reason why they're going like, oh, let's team up the ESA again and spend money on them when we could just do our own event, tweet it out, get like do our own marketing and be just as fine. So yeah. It'll be interesting. Basically. Yeah, I think this year will be really interesting to see what happens. I'm looking forward to seeing what goes down, how they're going to answer to it, if their answer is going to be, sufficient enough. We'll see. Anyways, our last news story actually is, somewhat gaming related, somewhat not. It has to do with that Last of Us HBO show. There's reports now that the show is going to be starting filming here in July in Calgary, Canada. So, it seems like this is starting to get the ball rolling. Obviously, in the months past, we've gotten things like the casting news for both lead roles. And we know that, it's going to be apparently possibly like an 8 to 10 episode season 1 or something like that covers the events of the first game. and now we're getting the rumors of filming. For me, these like rumored filming dates, I never really take them, I take them with a grain of salt, essentially, just because, we see so many dates get moved around, especially with films and movies. Whenever I see a date, it doesn't really mean anything anymore. Because I feel like almost all movies nowadays just always get something pushed back. Or, TV shows. So, it's exciting nonetheless. I'm not a hater of the Last of Us HBO show. I definitely have faith in that project, especially considering Naughty Dog's backing of it and Pedro Pascal and the talent behind all that. It's exciting, I guess. Do you guys have anything you want to add on that?
Yeah, I'd say it's exciting. As say, for the shooting date, I'm same as you. I can't really take that fully because, especially we see with any form of video game adaptation into a film or TV show, it always inevitably gets pushed back. So I think it's more than granted that this one probably will, even though it is slated for next year. I don't know. I think just because with COVID, you could just imagine kind of with everything else getting pushed back, it's eventually going to have a ripple effect on all the later projects. So I think it'll probably affect this as well. I'm looking forward to it. Like I say, it's in good hands, unlike what you can say for a lot of the other, video game adaptations. With Naughty Dog backing this one, you've got Neil really heavily involved. The casting so far has been good. You've got a really good showrunner at the helm. So yeah, I've got faith in it. But in terms of these dates, I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see because they're so far away. If they get delayed, it'll probably get announced within sometime in the next 6 months.
Yeah. Charlie, you have anything you want to add?
Yeah, I mean, I think with the whole date situation, because basically it's got a super long date. Because normally with shoots, they're a couple months. But this, they're giving an entire year. Is the rumor that it's going to start in July with principal photography and then go all the way to July next year, which is insane. But I'm guessing they've done that basically in case they have to postpone stuff. So my guess is that July next year is the latest possible date they will finish filming. So they're basically giving themselves a ton of space so that if stuff gets pushed back because of COVID, if they have more lockdowns in Canada, and which is where they're meant to be filming it, or if they have to do a ton of reshoots and that kind of thing, they're basically giving themselves time to do that, which I think is a good idea because it is it's a first season of a show. It's probably going to need a lot of reshoots because you never know how something's going to turn out until you're there on set filming the stuff. So I think it's a good idea that they're giving themselves so much time. I imagine that's why those dates are there. Personally, I think from when I've seen dates for shooting and stuff, they're usually pretty accurate. So I'd imagine this is what they are aiming for right now, which makes sense. They've written a lot of it. They've cast the two main people and announced the two main people, which means they've probably done a lot more of the casting at this point. So it seems like they are definitely ramping up and getting ready to start this thing. So July seems about right.
Is Pedro going to film Mando Season 3 before or after? Because I imagine that's a big kind of time slot for him to be away. That's not even happening
right now. They haven't even finished writing it. So I don't know when that's Season 3 will happen, It's also possible that they've given it this year in case they need to do other projects.
In case he needs to go for a month or so.
Yeah, because I imagine he's under contract and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, that's not unheard of.
So I wouldn't be surprised if that's why they've given it those kind of dates. Plus, we don't even know who else is on the cast. There could be some really big name who's in the middle of doing a show or movie at that point,
Yeah.
And it's also, I did see in the article from Push Square, they were saying this doesn't necessarily mean that Pedro's gonna be there from July to July. They could finish filming most of it by the end of the year, but then they film the non-principal cast next year, so we'll see. I'm excited to see how it turns out. I have a lot of faith in what's going on with it, so
yeah, definitely with HBO behind it and all the talent, definitely have a lot more faith on this one than say the Uncharted movie. So it'll be cool to see this kind of make its way to the TV format. So yeah, that has been it for this week's episode of Critically Incorrect. And yeah, it was pretty interesting week. We're hoping to get Justin back on next week. Obviously, he had some Wi-Fi issues this week, and I'm sure we'll get his thoughts on It Takes Two eventually once he comes back. And yeah, with that being said, of course, I want to remind you, if you have any comments, suggestions, feedback, any of the sort, leave it either in our comment section below the video, or you can click the link in our description to make our way to our Discord over there. So yeah, with that being said, I've been online. Charlie and Dan, if you want to both say your goodbyes, and yeah,
Peace out.
peace out, boys.
Peace out.